Hello, I'm Sudarshan, the Starshine Star. How are all of you guys doing? What a rocking Thursday it is today. It is a beautiful Thursday, January 15th, 2026. If you're listening to this podcast on any other place other than my YouTube channel, I'm going to let you know that my YouTube is called It's the Dazzling of the Light, or just type in at Sudarshan, a Starshine Star. This podcast here will make it my 300th clip there. And I have a couple of videos, actual videos, you can see me talking if you like, that are on the short playlist that I've put there. And I am getting more encouragement to start doing more videos. People are asking me about that rather than just continuously doing audio. So I'm going to probably be throwing a few videos into the mix. But I like to begin all of my clips with the 3 opening prayers, which are in Sanskrit and Telugu, and they are short. It's the Guru Mantra, the Ganesha Mantra, and the Gayatri Mantra. I do this to bless, uplift, purify, and protect you, me, and this clip. Before I do that, I command on the sacred blood of Jesus the Christ, Yeshua, to flow over all of us, over all of our beloveds, all of our human beloveds, and all of our animal beloveds. I call on Yeshua to cast out all satanics and all satanic attachments, cast out all demonics and all demonic attachments, cast out the spirit of pain, cast out the spirit of fear, cast out the spirit of ill health, cast out the spirit of mental illness, mental derangement, befuddlement, negative illusions and delusions. Cast out the spirit of bitterness, of revenge, of hatred, of jealousy, of envy. Cast out the spirit of self-dislike, self-rejection, and the projection of that onto any other being. Yeshua, please send your healing presence and your blessings for all of us right now. Please heal the wounds in our souls. Thank you, Yeshua. Jesus the Christ, we receive your healing presence and blessings. Amen. Svaha. I also command on the sacred presence of Mother Mary, a beautiful and true aspect of Mother Divine for our times, and she is for everyone. It is not about religion. Spirituality is cosmic. Thank you so much, Mother Mary, for being here with us ever more presently and fully in this eternal moment. Thank you for all of your love, protection, support, your fiercely guiding and correcting and loving and soothing mother's heart. Thank you so much, Yeshua and Mother Mary. Amen. Svaha. And now to the prayers. Om, 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 Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Parabrahmam, Tasmahi Sri Guruve Namaha. Om Shuklam Bharataram Vishnum Sishivarnam Chatupujam Prasanavaranam Dhyaye Sarva Vignopashante Om Bhurbhuva Suvaha Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhako Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Naha Prachodayat Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Very, very good. Well, let's see. I think I'm going to call this podcast Insurrection Act called Anarchy, Lawlessness in Minnesota. And I gave some times as I was putting this together, and now the times have passed because I've been collecting information for this podcast. So I'm going to read the times of the anyway, but you'll see that they'll be like 45 minutes ago. That was longer than that. Boy, it is rocking and rolling here today, guys. Let's see. As an aside, before I start this, I wanted to say that the anarchist rioters, the mobs, they're hardly protesting. The majority, they're just fully rioting, and they're fully chaotic, anarchist, and lawless. There was paperwork shown a few days ago that I saw, and it was proving that these, we always, we meaning people that research into this, know that there are many paid, they're called, quote, paid protesters, end quote, paid rioters. And they used to years ago get debit cards that were handed out, which I saw. I'm in a blue area. I won't reveal where, but I saw this years ago with my own eyes. They had their own debit cards that they had, that they were paid to. They had all their needs met and then some, and they were paid at that time pretty well. It was Soros money. But this is being paid very well. They're being paid, several of them are, not all of them, of course, but several of them are being paid $75,000 to $85,000 a year to do this crazy, deranged rioting everywhere. And it seems like there's a billionaire out of Shanghai that's been funding a lot of it now. Of course, on top of this, still Soros money. And I have to say Soros foundational money, because George Soros, the original, is not around. He's not walking around a free guy. And his son, Alex, who knows? Question mark, question mark, question mark. But it's a lot of the evils and their minions that are really the enemy of we the people. And more than that, avowed enemies of humanity. They hate humanity. They feel that they're very special. And many of them are not exactly human, as I've spoken about on my YouTube channel, on the Controller series or the Real World series. Some of them are hybrids. You know, what we call the elite line, even though they're hardly elite. Beings that believe that they have the devil-given right to rule over humanity, to subject humanity to their foulness and devil ways, and that they just stay at the top, swanning around with trillions and trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars and all the assets all across the globe and all the good property and owning everything. And you'd have to listen. I don't want to divert into that, because I'll even say proving how they, you know, via our birth certificates, how they owned us, owned our bodies, and that unwittingly that we were led into that via our parents signing our birth certificates. And there's a lot of stuff, but that's a whole nother topic. I've spoken about that a lot. You should go, a couple years ago when I first started posting on this channel, you could scroll down and see I did a great series. It was like 10 parts or more, called What Every American Needs to Know. And each of those I was filming at the time, and they were like 20 minutes or so, a little bit more. I kept them short. So go check that out if you don't know about that stuff, because that's really necessary to know. So anyway, let's go to what happened last night in Minneapolis. I watched all the videos. I did that before I did this so I could see with my own eyes. So it's not just screen shooting, although I posted that on my other social medias as screenshots of videos. But I've watched and listened to the videos a few times over with, just to, you know, see what's going on. So this is from a great independent investigative journalist on X called Nick Sortor. Sortor, blue checkmark account. Some of you might know him. He's pretty famous as well for exposing a lot of the, a lot of things, but more recently doing some great work exposing the Minnesota Somali daycare fraud and medical center fraud and housing fraud and Medicaid fraud and food stamp fraud and all that stuff. So Nick Sortor on X last night, he posted a few posts and he was showing video on each of them, but I'm just going to read you what he said. He said, breaking, multiple ICE and FBI vehicles have been destroyed and looted by rioters in Minneapolis after federal agents were forced to abandon them. Agents' gear, laptops, and personal information now litters the street. This is absolute anarchy. Insurrection, act now! Exclamation point. And it's such a mess when you see this, cars that are battered in, and it was just these rioters, and thieves, they're in so much trouble now, listeners. But let me go on with these posts. And then Sortor posted again, Minneapolis rioters stole sensitive documents, including arrest warrants and agent info from DHS and FBI vehicles they broke into. I intercepted, and in parentheses he writes most. Poor Nick, he tried to salvage most of it. I intercepted most agent info to keep it out of the hands of these thugs. as well as access badges to ICE facilities. And then he posted, anti-ICE riders tied a tow rope to a weapons locker in a federal vehicle and ripped it out with a pickup truck, as Minneapolis Police Department refused to respond. This is unsustainable. DHS agents are sitting ducks. We need Marines here now. Locals are begging for relief. 47. He called President Trump 47, obviously. Then he posted, Minneapolis riders successfully broke open a weapons locker in a federal vehicle and stole a rifle and ammunition before fleeing. I captured the thief's face and license plate on the getaway vehicle. Please share and help identify this POS. And for the longest time, listener, I didn't know what POS meant, honestly. It means piece of SHIT. So then he put, Nick Sorter put, I have forwarded this to the top levels of the FBI, and he shows the license plate and a picture of the thief, and the license plate, from what I could see, I could just see that it said Minnesota SM, and the rest of it was obscured by the little sound icon on X, and then it's a black Ford Taurus. So he did some really good work there. It was such a crazy, crazy mess. You can imagine when the armed federal agents have to abandon their vehicles and everything because of the mob. I mean, it was so crazy last night. And I'll get into more of like what came before that. But anyway, Attorney General Pam Bondi has deployed federal prison guards in riot gear to protect DHS agents in Minneapolis. Very good. Federal prison guards in riot gear. And Nick Sorter on X an hour ago posted, and it was more than an hour ago because I was collecting all this information, listeners, but I'll just read the time stamps as I wrote them. Nick Sorter on X an hour ago, just in, DHS agents just unloaded a deluge of tear gas onto anti-ICE rioters outside ICE Minneapolis. Multiple leftists have been taken into federal custody. Minneapolis is totally lawless at this point, and it's getting worse. And then Kim, in quotation marks, Katie USA, a blue checkmark account, another wonderful independent investigative journalist on X. She wrote, breaking, DHS agents detained multiple rioters outside the Whipple ICE facility. At CMDROP at large CA, right in the thick of it, front and center as usual. Playtime is over, terrorists. The hammer just dropped! ! And then an hour ago or so, Nick Sorter on X posted, hell yes, Commander Bovino just led the charge to arrest leftist rioters outside ICE Minneapolis. These guys are not backing down. Keep fighting. And he put a fire emoji. And I watched it, and that was glorious to see. Yeah, it was really good to see that. Then White House responds to Tim Walz's quote, direct appeal to President Trump. And because President Trump posted this after last night's total anarchy and lawlessness in Minneapolis. Here I'll read to you Donald J. Trump at Real Donald Trump on True Social. He wrote, if the corrupt politicians of Minnesota don't obey the law and stop the professional agitators and insurrectionists from attacking the patriots of ICE, who are only trying to do their job, I will institute, and he put this in all caps, I will institute the Insurrection Act, which many presidents have done before me, and quickly put an end to the travesty that is taking place in that once great state. Thank you for your attention to this matter! ! President DJT. And that was this morning at 5:04 a.m. he posted that. So then the White House responded. They said, Tim Walz, Jacob Fry, and Democrat leaders in Minnesota have done nothing but turn up the temperature, smear heroic ICE officers, and incite violence against them, all in defense of criminal illegal aliens. In Minnesota, ICE has arrested rapists, drug traffickers, domestic abusers, and more, despite Democrat opposition. The Trump administration will protect the American people and enforce the law without apology. The only statement Tim Walz should be making is an apology. He has repeatedly compared ICE officers to NAZIS and lied about their important work, including in his speech just last night. And that was from Abigail Jackson, the official White House spokesperson. Okay, so what, listener, regarding what happened last night in Minneapolis, and, you know, I do take things sometimes like from Washington Post here when they're just posting facts, when they're not giving rhetoric or whatever, or editorial, because they're just so upside down. But if it's just like, you know, factual information, then I will share it. And I am sharing this now. So Washington Post, they were talking about this Venezuelan man whose name is Julio Cesar Sosa Celes, and the Department of Homeland Security said he was in the U.S. illegally after arriving in 2022. So Washington Post, they wrote, DHS, Department of Homeland Security, obviously, alleged that Sosa Celes attempted to evade arrest by driving a vehicle away from federal law enforcement officers, crashing it into a parked car, and running away. As an officer caught up with Sosa Celes, two other men, who listeners were proven to be his family members, two other men came out of a nearby property and began attacking the officer with a snow shovel and a broom handle, according to DHS. Sosa Celes then began striking the officer with a shovel. Another was hitting the officer with a broomstick, the agency said. The three men fled into the nearby apartment before ICE successfully arrested them, according to DHS. And I want to say, listener, that, by the way, all three of these men were illegals from Venezuela. Other than Sosa Celes, there were his relatives Alfredo Alejandro Ahorna and Gabriel Alejandro Hernandez Ledesma. And Christine Ohm said the actions of these men amounted to attempted murder of federal law enforcement. That's how hard they were hitting that agent, who is not named, but he had to go to the hospital after they were attempting to brain him with a snow shovel and hit him with broomsticks and stuff. So let me continue reading about what happened. So the three men fled into a nearby apartment before ICE successfully arrested them, according to DHS. All right, what had happened in the melee before was that a federal officer was being attacked, as I just said, and he shot Sosa Celes in the leg. And after that, and I'm going to tell you a little bit more about that too, but let me just continue on with this. After that, the rioters went wild in the street, and they began such craziness, just like what Nick Sorter had filmed, that then the federal agents had to get out of there and ditch their vehicles and all their stuff. U.S. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche referred to the protests in Minneapolis on Wednesday as an insurrection and blamed the unrest on Walz and Fry, who he said were encouraging violence against law enforcement in a situation that has escalated since the fatal shooting of Renee Good last week. And then note, she was shot after ramming her SUV directly into an ICE officer. And I'm also going to quote here, note that Scott Jennings from Scott Jennings Show on CNN, of all places. Yeah, he's like the only one doing some truthful work over there. But Scott Jennings, he's a blue checkmark account on X, also on CNN. He posted, let's see. He posted first something from Kimberly at Praise BG. He posted something at Kimberly at Praise B2G_D. So obviously praise to God. Was assured repeatedly by pundits on TV that he, the ICE agent in Renee Good's shooting, who was named Jonathan Ross, was never hit by her car. And Scott Jennings posted underneath that, directly from CBS News, breaking: the ICE agent who fatally shot Renee Good on January 7th in Minneapolis, Jonathan Ross, suffered internal bleeding to the torso following the incident, according to two U.S. officials briefed on his medical condition. And CBS themselves, yes, posted that yesterday at 7:51 a.m. And it has, right now, it has 90 million views. So 90 million people at least saw that. The truth. And Also, I wanted just to mention this because I didn't mention it before. Renee Good was a trained anti-ICE activist. She had been training. Yeah, she was on the job, and a trained anti-ICE activist, having followed ICE all day for the express purpose of blocking them and then refusing to follow lawful orders, hit the ICE agent, Jonathan Ross, with her 4,500-pound vehicle. And that's the truth of what happened. And that's very sad. And I won't make jokes about that. There's some people making jokes, whatever. I will never make jokes about that. And I'm so sorry for Renee Good's, for her unaliving and for her children. And we heard her father-in-law speak about the whole situation. And yeah, I really wish that had never happened, but she chose a really dark path and paid the consequences. It's sad, though. Okay, so Scott Jennings' show on CNN, he posted this. He posted, "It's time for POTUS to invoke the Insurrection Act in Minnesota." And then 3 hours ago on his Scott Jennings show, as part of his monologue, he said, "That buffoon of a governor out in Minnesota, Tim Walz, just doesn't know when to stop. He has let protesters run wild even as they continue to attack ICE agents. And now he's fanning the flames even more. The Walz rebellion must end." And a woman named Teresa B., a blue checkmark account on X, at Hey779, 3 hours ago, she said, "He could easily put a curfew in effect to slow down the traffic of protesters, but he won't. So I'm on board with the Insurrection Act. Time to take back our country from radicals who only want to destroy it." And I completely agree with Teresa. And I'm laughing because I'm looking at a meme. I was looking at a meme when I did this of Tim Walz with like a really furious face, yelling, "I committed the biggest fraud in history and need a riot to change the narrative." Then Devin C., blue checkmark account on X, about 3 hours ago, wrote, "I agree, but I also understand the Trump doctrine of, quote, give them enough rope and they will HAN themselves," end quote. He is letting the world see how insane these people are, because it is easy to prosecute someone, but it is much easier to convince the nation that they need to be prosecuted. Yeah, meaning after you see how insane they are and watch videos and hear them directly doing these things, and you're like, oof, if you doubted it before. And then Washington Post goes on saying, Trump raised the prospect of deploying the Insurrection Act previously as well, but didn't formally invoke it. He threatened to do so in 2020 during his first term, saying he would deploy troops if governors did not calm civil unrest after the death of George Floyd. And in June, after protests in Los Angeles over immigration raids, he said he would certainly invoke the act if there's an insurrection. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi L. Noem told reporters at the White House that she spoke with President Trump on Thursday morning about invoking the Insurrection Act, calling the option his constitutional right, but adding that she did not know whether he was likely to follow through on the threat. A White House official told Washington Post that they have nothing to add to the president's post on Truth Social. It is not clear how or if the federal government would deploy U.S. troops in Minneapolis, which is part of a broader metro area with nearly 3.8 million residents. According to a Pew Research estimate of U.S. Census Bureau data, there are some 130,000 undocumented, illegal, immigrants in the state of Minnesota, and a majority are presumed to reside in the 7 counties that make up the Twin Cities metro area. The Insurrection Act has been invoked more than 30 times in its more than 200-year history. It was last invoked in 1992 during the Rodney King riots in Los Angeles and has not been used without the consent of a state's governor for 60 years. Then a great independent journalist on X named Kim, like I said before, in parentheses, in quotation marks, Katie USA, blue checkmark account on X, 7 hours ago, wrote, Midas Touch, it's spelled M-E-I-D-A-S, Midas Touch, Mercado Media, and Status Quo all disseminated CUI info to their followers. Last night, DHS agents conducted a targeted stop on a Venezuelan national illegally present in the U.S. The suspect attempted to evade arrest, crashing his vehicle into a parked car before fleeing on foot. An agent pursued and caught up to the suspect, heading to a physical altercation. 2 family members emerged from a nearby apartment and joined in assaulting the agent. To defend himself, the agent fired a single defensive shot, striking the original suspect in the foot. And then she has a video of the suspect's family calling 911, which I'll mention in a little bit too. A violent mob quickly formed, forcing agents to deploy pepper spray and tear gas to maintain control. Overwhelmed by the crowd's size, agents were compelled to abandon 2 vehicles, which were subsequently vandalized and destroyed by mob members using baseball bats. And yes, listener, I watched all those videos, as I said before. I've seen it all with my own eyes. Items stolen from the vehicles included IDs, a storage locker containing weapons, and most critically, DHS operational plans for Minnesota, classified as Controlled Unclassified Information, CUI. Controlled Unclassified Information. This sensitive material, which cannot be disseminated to the public, was not only stolen, but also read aloud on live streams viewed by tens of thousands. Status Quo, Midas Touch, was the first to broadcast the documents. A possible Antifa terrorist, who apparently stole them from one of the vehicles, held them close to the camera, allowing viewers to read the contents. The exposed information included FBI agents' names, phone numbers, emails, lodging locations, execution plans, and other protected details. Following suit, Andrew Mercado of Mercado Media did the same, broadcasting the sensitive material in an identical manner. As a former military member, Mercado should be well aware of protocols surrounding sensitive information and the prohibitions against its dissemination. Later last night, Andrew Mercado, Status Quo, and Midas Touch deleted all copies of their live streams after they realized that people were capturing their crimes and reposting them on X. Whoops. Disseminating CUI, especially via live stream, to a massive audience constitutes serious crime. Unauthorized disclosure of sensitive information. If verified as CUI, this breaches Executive Order 13556, potentially resulting in civil or criminal penalties, particularly if it compromises agents or federal operations. Doxing or endangerment. Exposing agent identities, locations, and plans could lead to charges of harassment, stalking, or reckless endangerment, e.g., under 18 U.S.C. Code Section 119 for threats against federal officials, heightening personal safety risks. Broader dissemination, live streaming escalates a theft into mass exposure, possibly invoking wire fraud charges, 18 U.S.C. Section 1343. If conducted online with harmful intent or aiding and abetting interference with law enforcement, courts often impose harsher penalties, such as steeper fines or longer imprisonment, for the amplified public harm. A reminder to @AG Pam Bondi, grandmothers faced arrest for peacefully touring the Capitol after being waved in by law enforcement. The live stream crimes committed by Status Quo, Midas Touch, and Mercado Media far exceed that severity and demand immediate investigation and action. Those actions also violate X's terms of service. X users are urging at Elon Musk to permanently ban all involved accounts. This isn't Andrew Mercado's first on-video offense. At Elon Musk, please review these additional incidents. Andrew Mercado threatening Nick Shirley and Cam Higbee in live stream, and she provides the link. Andrew Mercado threatening to FUCK up Nick Sorter on live stream after Nick and Cam were mobbed and their vehicle vandalized. She provides that link. Andrew Mercado running red lights and creating hazardous traffic situations on live stream. She provides the link. At Elon Musk, we ask you to please examine this evidence and take appropriate steps. And then, by the way, Kim also shows the statement made via the 911 call. The wife of Sosa Celes said, this is what she said, that her husband hit a federal agent and then he closed the apartment door on the agent after the agent shot him in the leg. So this refutes corrupt mainstream media spin that Sosa Celes was a kid, not an adult. They try with all their BS nonsense ways. Yeah, so I'm pretty fired up because I want the Insurrection Act. I want to see the Marines. It's past the time. Thank you for listening. Please like, share, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell. Drop a comment. What do you think of all this? I like to read your comments, but please keep them respectful. I don't ask anyone to agree with me, but please keep them respectful. Thank you. I end all of my clips with a closing prayer, which is in Sanskrit and Telugu, and what I'm saying is God bless all beings in all worlds. Om Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Yes, we're all looking forward to peace, peace, peace after this great scouring and cleanup of all the filth and corruption and satanic entrenchment on this earth realm, not just in my country, America. Everywhere it's happening. It's popping off pretty well right now, but that will only increase. So God bless you and yours. I'm sending much love and big hugs to you and yours. Stay safe. Keep your head on a swivel. No reason to be afraid, but you just have to have some discernment and awareness about you. And I'll see you when I see you. Thanks for being here. Bye-bye for now.